Gettysburg Museum of History Studios. You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Ambrose Burnside, the 9th Corps, Kentucky.
I was talking to Chris Gwynn about this last night. And I'm like, he's like, what are you doing here again? I'm like, I'm going to be in the studio with Matt Callery. He's like, oh, that's right. What are y'all talking about? I'm like, Burnside, 9th Corps, Western Theater, unique East-West connections. And I said, if things worked out a little bit differently, there could have been 8 Federal Corps at Gettysburg and not 7.
Oh,
another one.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
And it's ironic because the 9th Corps comes back a year later in 1964 and participates in the Overland Campaign.
Yeah, that's what Mike said when we were waiting for you to get here, and I was kind of reading bits from the article that you sent, and Mike's like, wait, so they were out there and then they came back? You changed your name to Latrine?
Indeed. And I look forward to chatting with you about how much these men experience and how much they travel. And it's incredible.
They were like jet setters. By the way, Mikey B is in the back controlling the cameras once again. Thank you, Michael, for your steadfast service to Addressing Gettysburg. And Steve Phan is our guest today. He works out at Camp Nelson National Park or National Historic Site. What do you call it?
National Monument.
National Monument. Okay. And we did a show about Camp Nelson. Oh, no, you did a winter lecture.
That's right.
Right, that's what I'm thinking.
Well, actually, no, our superintendent did. You met Ernie Price. He came out here to do the winter lecture series at camp about.
Oh, that's correct. And you were just there in the audience. No, you were there. I thought you came out to see him. Oh, no, it was that other guy from another place.
That's right.
What was his name?
The other Steve Phan.
The other Steve Phan. No. He came to see another ranger about a new site.
But you saw me this summer as well when I talked about Camp Nelson, interpreting Camp Nelson, and today,
yes,
at the CWI conference this past summer.
Yes, I've seen you a lot in recent years.
Well, we were marking right before the program began. When we first started, we met each other when I did that winter lecture series for the Defenses of Washington.
Yes.
And then, remember that they used to do like the Chowder Festival here?
Uh-huh. That's where we first met.
Yeah, is that gone, by the way?
I think it is.
Okay,
I think
that was great, by the way.
That was great. Had
a really good time, and I remember
delicious chowder.
It was amazing. Very creative ideas and recipes from the chefs and restaurants in town. I remember you were telling me you were about to start this podcast.
Yeah.
And you said that was 2018 or 17?
So it was 2018 when I was doing the Instagram. We knew each other through Instagram.
Right.
So it was 2018 when I was trying to build the audience on Instagram, promoting that there is a podcast coming. And during that year, I was writing my narrative episode and recording interviews to keep in the can.
So it's been about 6 years now, right?
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Really cool to see how much it's grown. I think I was talking to maybe some of the staff I work with in Kentucky about this podcast. I'm like, y'all should listen to it. It's really good.
Thank you.
And I told him, I'm like, I remember when he first talked about the idea, how much it's developed. You got a great following, got amazing guests on here. So it's good to be back. It kind of feels like full circle in many ways, right?
Yeah.
And I've been telling people, I went out west kind of like the 9th Corps did. And then who knows, at some point I might be headed back out east. So we'll see what happens.
Well, as of now, you are out at Camp Nelson, and you seem to be doing a good job there. You seem to be enjoying it. The site seems to be growing and improving. You were just telling me you've got like some museum exhibits coming up or something.
Yeah, we got this new interactive exhibit that's going to be literally installed on Monday, September 15th, and been working on that one for quite some time, for about a year now. And I got 8 cannons coming. We're working on a new museum design plan. Working on trails that go further deeper, kind of in the heart of Camp Nelson, which was this large U.S. Army supply depot and recruitment center and training center, hospital. It was a little bit of everything. It was a county park for about 20 years. And so we've been there really since 2021 when permanent National Park Service staff arrived. And it's been really special to be on the ground to build something new, especially a new national park site. So that's why I've been out there. People are like, what brings you out to Kentucky? It's Camp Nelson. It's really, really a special place with very complex stories. And, I miss being out here, of course. And this is how long I've been in Kentucky. It kind of shocks a lot of my friends and colleagues. I've been out there basically longer than I was at the Defenses of Washington. And I think that's what most people know me from is the work I did in D.C. for about 4 years. But I've been at Camp Nelson for almost 4.5 years now.
Oh, really? God, that went fast.
It goes by really quick. I did a detail out there in 2021 for about 120 days. And then I moved out there permanently in September of 2021, and my anniversary is coming up, I think on the 16th, so right before the Antietam anniversary. And so I guess it'll be about 4.25 years, but it goes by really, really quickly, especially when you're working with inspired staff and partners and stakeholders, and you're building something really special.
Yeah.
So it's been, I've had to candidly sacrifice a lot to go out there and, be away from people like you and Mike and the community throughout this region in the East Coast and DC, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, right? I miss, being kind of in this home base. And, I saw you this summer at the conference, and it was just good to be around my friends again.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
and so I try to make it out here as best I can, as much as I can, excuse me. So I come out to Gettysburg maybe once or twice a year, and I'm actually headed to DC right after this to see some more friends. But, I came out came out for Rich and Kim's wedding, right? That was a lot of fun. And, the first 25 people I think I saw were all Civil War history people, right?
Of
And
course,
it was just so good to be around that. That's what I really miss is the community aspect, right? There's a lot of great people out west, of course. It's just a little bit different, It's super omnipresent here. And anywhere you go, you're going to run into some, people that, I was in town last night and I ran into several people that just, what are you doing here? I'm like, I don't know, I'm just kind of hanging out,
Yeah.
So it's good to be back. And, again, thanks for having me, man. I'm just really proud of the work that you've done over the past few years to really develop. This might actually surprisingly my first time in the studio. I
it is.
That, and
I was surprised about that too.
You've come a long way from the shed.
Well, this is all thanks to Eric Dorr, because he kind of, I never would have asked for this, but he kind of came up to me and was like, hey, I'm about to buy this building. We're not going to be able to do this for another 10 months to a year, but I'd like to, give you the space if you'll promote my museum and everything. And I was like, yeah, I'm happy to take that offer. Sure. So yeah, it was very, very lucky. And I think, like we were talking before the show, when we're talking about Pete and how, I think the main thing that has thrust this whole thing forward is a lot of luck. And I've been lucky to meet a lot of really good people who are willing and able and not even being asked to help, and they help. And so, I'm very grateful for all that. And so maybe lucky isn't the word, maybe blessed is the word, if you'd like to go that way.
I think so, but you also create your blessing, or you help inspire blessings, or create your own luck, if that makes sense.
It does. I get what you're saying. I
think you're very skilled at genuinely building rapport with people, right?
I like people.
You like people
for the most part.
You've got quite the sense of humor, but you generally believe in communication and partnership. And as I talk to a lot of our staff, and kind of my approach to this, my philosophy is I don't even like to use the word networking. I'm literally building relationships.
Yeah, that's what you have to do.
And so whether it's another park, another organization, an institution, right? And I think people recognize kind of that's what we do a lot, in the work that I've done in the Park Service is the park is a national park site, so there's national significance. That's why we're there. But that doesn't mean we can't come to your space, right? And come to where you work at, where people find meaning at your place, and we can make something, come together, build something.
Well, that's what I love about
a genuine relationship.
The last few seasons of Winter Lectures, Chris has done a really good job at bringing in people from other parks. Not that they never did that before, but I think it seems more deliberate because he's bringing in people from lesser known parks. There was, I can't remember the guy's name, but he came representing this new park that was starting up and telling us about the history. That was 2 years ago, I believe.
That might have been was it Mill Springs Battlefield?
Mill Springs Battlefield, that's it, yes.
Which is about an hour south of us, right? And they're even newer than we are, and, just developing just like we are as well. But a lot of this, like Camp Nelson, was community-based, right? It was a grassroots effort to first preserve the grounds there. As I mentioned, Camp Nelson was a county park for about 20 years, right? And they did a lot with the little. And when people come out, they're like, I thought this was a new site. I'm like, oh, it is. They're like, well, you got a visitor center here and a museum and trails and everything. I'm like, that was established before we got here. We're just kind of building up from what they did.
It's a new national site.
Exactly. Yeah. But there was literally about 30 years worth of work and sweat and archaeology and preservation and construction to, build this up literally to become a national park site. And I remember talking to the people that were deeply involved, from the Camp Nelson Foundation to the county members and employees. They're like, we've been working on this with a goal for this to become a national park site at some point, and it took over 20 years. Right?
That's not a quick and easy thing to do.
And that, when you first walk into a space like that, and I learned a lot, and you met Ernie a couple of years ago, our superintendent, and he been a great mentor when it comes to just being in other people's spaces, right? And understanding where people are coming from and really taking time. That's what he's really taught me. And, I'm sitting, we're having these meetings. I'm like, we got to do this. We got to do that. And he's like, we got to take time. The people have been here for 20 years, right? Let's give them the respect they deserve and kind of listen to their perspective, and we can build something pretty special, right? And really, that was very eye-opening for me. And, we've been able to do a lot of special projects there and events, and we're going to be doing that moving forward. And I do want to give a shout out, just thinking about Dave Wilson at Victorian Studio. He was out at Camp Nelson in July. That's the second time he's been there, when he's come out to support our events. He gave an incredible, presentation this year about Civil War photography, everything that goes into it, from the chemicals to the history of it. And then he went out, and it was a pretty hot and humid day. And Matt, he shot plates for like 7 straight hours.
Really?
Right? Yeah. And including at the end, we went a little bit longer because a lot of our staff that were working, especially like our new seasonals and interns, they've never taken like a wet plate,
right,
before. And they were really passionate about it, really into it. And he stayed out there the whole day. It was really, really cool. So
it is a cool experience, and he does a great job with it.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking about him, and obviously, the fire at the store,
just had a fire,
things like that.
Yeah.
So the studio, we're sending our love and thoughts out to Dave, Anna, and everyone associated with the studio there. So
Camp Nelson,
yes, sir,
and Burnside, and the Ninth Corps. So Burnside essentially goes out and builds it. It's his job to go build it.
Yeah,
right?
His
just yes or no right now, sir?
Yes, correct.
Yes or no? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, before he goes out to build it, describe to me what Kentucky in that region of the state, or the whole state, whatever, looks like before Burnside goes out and does his thing.
I would guess I'd just look at geography, since we're in Pennsylvania, right? But just down the road is Maryland, right? Mm-hmm. It's another border state. Kentucky is a border state, a loyal slave state, but even more tenuous in their allegiance to the Union. And it's going to be quite chaotic there throughout the Civil War. From 1861, in the summer of 61, the state declared neutrality. I always describe it as Switzerland with our visitors and guests. And then by late summer, it affirms its allegiance to the Union, but very, very tenuously. And this will really be based on the protection of slavery. And when the federal government, the U.S. military, the War Department, they start kind of chipping at that over the course of the Civil War. And you're going to see this at Camp Nelson especially. You see this kind of dramatic turn against Lincoln's administration and the war. And it's incredibly complex, much more complex than I originally thought when I went out west. I went to grad school at Middle Tennessee State, where Stones River National Battlefield is at in Murfreesboro. So I had a good grasp of the Western theater. And then I went out to Kentucky, and I just could not believe how complex it was. And so Burnside's kind of walking into this very complex, violent, contested vacuum in many ways. And, when we're talking about Kentucky, we're actually talking about what's the reason why Camp Nelson is established is what happens to the south of it. And this, as early as 1861, East Tennessee, which is very pro-Union, is under Confederate occupation and control, and authorities in that area, leading citizens, including the only U.S. senator from a southern state that remains loyal, Andrew Johnson, is calling for a campaign to liberate East Tennessee. And they talk about this, man, as early as 1861. It does not happen. It does not happen in 1862. When Burnside is sent out west to take command of what they call the Department of the Ohio, that's one of his major priorities. And
yeah, so he's sent out west to take command of the Department of Ohio in March of 63. Is that right?
Yes. And one of the things I wanted to, he officially takes command on March 16th, 1863. The Ninth Corps will be joining him as well.
As Addressing Gettysburg celebrates its 8th year bringing Gettysburg to you in unique and creative ways, we want to take this moment to thank our patrons. The only reason we've been able to last this long is because our patrons have supported our efforts since 2019. And we could do a lot more if you join the ranks of the original Gettys nerds by going to patreon.com/addressinggettysburg. Oh, and you can listen to the rest of this episode over there.